Et il nous donne la victoire. Alors chantons la victoire. La victoire. Hey. La victoire. La victoire. La victoire. La victoire. La victoire. Hey. Si tu m'entends, lève-toi et chante ta victoire. La victoire. La victoire. La victoire. Hey, hey. La victoire. La victoire dans le nom de Jésus. La victoire. Hey, hey. Chantons la victoire. Mon âme réjouis-toi, car j'ai Dieu est le grand vainqueur. Mon âme réjouis-toi, car Jésus est le tout-puissant.
Hello and welcome to episode 45 of Afrikanists Assemble. If you've listened to our vodcast for a while, you know that we like to ask creative, sometimes off-the-wall questions. There's one question we've been sitting on for about 4 years, wondering if it was too weird or abstract for anyone to actually take up the challenge of answering it. We finally decided that this was the month to ask it, and just see what our contributors would do with it. Here's the question. Let's pretend that every academic field of study or occupation transforms into an animal. What animal do you think yours would turn into, and why? We were delighted to see some of our contributors step up and submit truly interesting and insightful answers to this question. Take a listen to what they said.
If comparative literature were to transform into an animal, I believe it would be some kind of migratory bird, like a swallow, for instance. Because of seasonal migrations, those animals cannot be associated with just one place. The circulation itself is part of their fluid identity. When dealing with African literatures, one comes across many such narratives. From Samba Diallo's studies in Paris in the 1961 Senegalese novel L'Aventure ambiguë, to the London migrant workers in Brian Chikwava's Harare North in 2004. This feature is present in African Europhone literatures, but also in Afrophone texts, as the heroine of the Swahili novel Penzi la Damu by Ana Samuel Manyanza spends a few years in Germany. Even when there's no travel in the narrative, the comparison in itself is a journey. And I like the idea that the aim of comparative literature is to connect local, national, and global literatures. No literature is cut off from the rest of the world. Shakespeare entered Swahili literature through Julius Nyerere's translations. Sherlock Holmes' pipe is smoked by a Zanzibari sleuth, Bonamsa, in Muhammad Said Abdullah's stories, and Joram Kiango, Tanzania's most popular fictional spy, reveals in the novel Roho Yapaka that he is actually an African ninja trained by no other than Bruce Lee's master in the United States. All those examples show that literary patterns and characters travel and transform themselves in the process. If not a swallow, I think comparative literature should be an animal that resists classification, as it draws its methodology from other fields of study like literary analysis, history, anthropology, or linguistics. Maybe the chameleon could be a better candidate, if only it used its ability to reveal rather than to hide.
Esta é uma pergunta hipotética que nos leva a uma imaginação bastante rica e interessante. Mas para responder, talvez seria necessária também uma atitude hipotética e, de certa forma, lúdica. A minha área de pesquisa é a etnomusicologia, uma ciência que, de forma geral, se pode entender como o estudo da música como um fenômeno social, cultural e histórico. Desta feita, se tivesse de imaginar a etnomusicologia como um animal, talvez ela seria um elefante. A principal razão para isto tem que ver com a sua capacidade de memória. O elefante é conhecido pelo seu grande poder de memória, chegando a se lembrar do caminho por onde uma vez passou, mesmo passados já 50 anos. A etnomusicologia, em muitos casos, lida com a memória, quer a que foi preservada, como a que se pretende preservar. É sempre um regresso a um ponto de começo, ou regresso a um acontecimento, a um ritual, a uma prática musical que se transmite por via oral de geração em geração, que é, de facto, exercício de memória. Por outro lado, o elefante é um animal que demonstra elevado teor do que eu talvez poderia chamar de consciência cultural. Isto é visível na sua rica vida social, através de seus comportamentos e rituais, como a convivência em família, a prática de sepultamento de seus semelhantes, os jogos, o respeito pelas hierarquias, etc. Isto demonstra uma profunda aculturação que a etnomusicologia procura desvendar em seus estudos. Por isso, se tivesse de pensar a etnomusicologia como um animal, talvez eu a pensaria como um elefante.
My academic field is a fusion of Onomastics, linguistic landscape studies, and sociolinguistics. If I were to imagine it as an animal, I believe it will transform into a waverbird. The waverbird, found across Africa, is an incredible creature known for its craft, precision, and creativity. It doesn't merely build a nest, it constructs a narrative. Every strand it picks, every knot it ties, contributes to a purposeful structure. Much like this bird, those of us who work within the fields of language, naming, and signage are constantly engaging in the art of construction, not of physical homes, but of social meaning, cultural memory, and public identity. Just like the bird intricately weaves strands to build a home, my field weaves together names, signs, languages, and social meanings to construct the identity of a place or people. The waverbird is observant, meticulous, and highly social, traits that mirror the layered, place-sensitive, and people-oriented work we do when analyzing how language reflects and shapes our lived environment. In Onomastics, we explore how names of people, places, and institutions are never arbitrary. They carry histories, resistances, aspirations, and politics. A name might conceal pain, assert power, or reclaim a suppressed heritage. Every name is a story. In the African context, sometimes a rebellion. Through linguistic landscape studies, we interpret public signage as a kind of spatial language. This is a symbolic map that tells us who belongs where, what languages dominate, which ones are marginalized, and what messages are being silently broadcast across walls, streets, markets, and mosques. Sociolinguistics at the heart of it all keeps us grounded in people. Our language use reflects our realities, our struggles, our social hierarchies, and our everyday negotiations of identity and power. So just like the weaverbird builds its nest with a watchful eye and deliberate design, I see my work as stitching together fragments of public text and spoken word, uncovering how language weaves through our cities and lives. Each name is a thread, each sign is a strand, and each linguistic choice is a stitch in the broader narrative of identity, power, and belonging. I admire how the weaverbird's work is both functional and aesthetic, individual and communal. That's the reflection, I hope, of how language research can be rigorous yet deeply human.
Lartiru annay ngu waɗanmi he haɓɓodi dow ko jokkondiri woline he finatawa. To lartiru annay dow ko jokkondiri woline he finatawa waylotono baroga ma nagge non ngu waylotono. Gam nagge uwanno hoggo yaha yaala pilki gam heɓa faaboro yonki mum. Non lartowo annay dow ko jokkondiri woline he finatawa bo yamiranke ƴuwa gollirde mum yaha yaala yimɓe ɓe to mum o lartata annay dow no woline he finatawa jokkondirori. Nagge se ƴuwa hoggo yaha der durdude to heɓata nyandu mum. Non larto annay dow ko jokkondiri woline he finatawa bo se ƴuwa gollirde mum yaha weerana ɓe to mum o lartata annay.
If my academic field were to transform into an animal, in this case, I'm talking about language and linguistics, I believe it would become a chameleon. Much like the chameleon, language is not static. It is highly adaptive, constantly responding to shifts in its environment. A chameleon changes color to blend in, to signal, or to respond to changes in light and temperature. Likewise, language evolves to meet the changing demands of society, technology, identity, and culture. Just as a chameleon survival depends on its ability to adjust, language adapts to survive and remain relevant. For example, the rise of digital communication has introduced new vocabulary, changed how we write and speak, and even created entirely new forms of language like emojis and internet slang. These shifts are not arbitrary. They reflect broader societal changes in how we connect, express ourselves, and construct meaning. Apparently, language mirrors the world it lives in. It absorbs influences, it sheds old forms and generates new ones, much like the chameleon shifting its skin to navigate its environment. In this way, the study of language is the study of change itself, whether social change, whether cultural change, or even political. The chameleon reminds us that adaptability is not just a feature of language, it is its essence. The same can be said of literature, especially when we look at literature from the point of view of a reflection of the society. And in this case, the society is a network of relationships, and man is at the center of this relationship. So because there is a constant change in the society orchestrated by man, who is a factor in the equation, we can now look at all of these things from the point of view of a chameleon that also continually changes its skin to adapt to the environment.
Ukuba imimandla yezifundo okanye yomsebenzi ibinokuguqulwa ibe zizilwanyana, bendikhetha ingwe ukumelwa yam. Ingwe yikati enkulu yasehlathini eyaziwayo ngesantya sayo, amandla ayo, nendlela emangalisayo yokulungelelanisa neemeko. Kufundo lolwimi, ulwakhiwo lwalo, umsebenzi walo, nendlela esilusebenzisa ngayo kwiimeko ezahlukeneyo, ukuguquguquka kubalulekile. Njengoko ingwe ilungelelanisa nendawo ejikelezayo, ingcali yolwimi nayo kufuneka ikwazi ukuhamba phakathi kweekhowudi, inkcubeko kunye neentsingiselo, ngokuxhomekeke kwimeko. Xa usebenza ngolwimi, unokujongana nemiba yentlalo enzima, usebenzisa imifanekiso, ntekelelelo. Maxa wambi ungajongani nayo ngqo kanye njengengwe, engekho nkulu kodwa enamandla amakhulu. Nangona ithule kwaye ihamba ngobuqili, ihlala ingesinye sezilwanyana ezinamandla kakhulu. Ngokufanayo, ulwimi luthule, lunobuqili, kodwa lunamandla okuguqula.
如果我的研究领域，也就是斯瓦西里语文学和东非文化，变成一只动物，我想它会是一只章鱼。章鱼生活在斯瓦西里海岸，是当地饮食文化的一部分。在桑吉巴尔、拉姆或者达累斯萨拉姆的街头巷尾，你可以看到渔民清早捕章鱼，傍晚在小摊上煮着香料味十足的章鱼汤。它是一种日常食材，也是一种文化象征。但我之所以选择章鱼，不只是因为它在场，更因为它的特性和我研究的领域高度相似。章鱼是一种非常古老又非常聪明的海洋生物，它在进化的过程中从未拥有硬壳，却凭借智慧和柔韧，成为最难被捕捉、最善于应变的动物之一。 这种柔中带质的生存方式，就像斯瓦西里文学一样，它没有刀剑和火药，但却用故事、语言、象征回应了殖民、创伤、身份和记忆。章鱼的8只触角不断伸向不同的方向，就像斯瓦西里文学触及历史、宗教、语言、性别、身体、海洋和大陆之间的文化张力。它还会变色，会伪装，这是文学的本领。很多斯瓦西里文本看起来是讲神怪、爱情或寓言，其实深藏着对社会、政治与身份的精细观察。章鱼不会正面硬碰，但它能游走、缠绕、消失，然后在别人没预料的地方出现。文学也是这样的，它并不高声喧哗，却有穿透人心的力量。所以如果我的学术领域是一只动物，那一定是一只来自斯瓦西里海岸、充满香料气息、聪明而古老的章鱼。
Bí ẹ̀ka akadẹ́ẹ̀kọ́ tàbí iṣẹ́ bá paradà sí ẹranko, wọn ó paradà di erin lákàtàbú. Yorùbá ní àjànàkú kọjá mo rí nǹkan fìrí, bàbá rerin ká sọ pa rerin. Erin jẹ́ ẹranko tí Yorùbá gbàgbọ́ pé ó jẹ́ ọlọ́gbọ́n, onímọ̀, olóye àti aláròjinlẹ̀. Onírìn ọlálẹ́sẹ̀, olùfẹ́ ọmọ, olùfẹ́ ẹbí àti ará ni erin jẹ́. Àròjinlẹ̀ ni kó tó lóyún bímọ, kì í dédé bímọ bí ẹlẹ́dẹ̀ tàbí eku ẹdá. Èyí tó bá bí lẹ́ẹ̀kan, koríko ibẹ̀ á mọ̀ pé òun gbàlejò, torí gbogbo koríko téyin bá tẹ̀ àtẹ̀gbé ni. Ẹni bá rí á mọ̀ pé nǹkan bọ́, torí ọmọ àjànàkú yìí yàrá, ọmọ tẹni bá bí erin ní í jọ. Erin kì í ṣe ẹranko tí ń hùwà jùàjùà, ẹranko tí farabalẹ̀ ṣe ohun gbogbo ni. Erin jẹ́ ẹranko tó ń farabalẹ̀ kẹ́kọ̀ọ́, kọ́ àṣà àti ìṣesí àwọn àgbà wọn. Àwọn àgbà erin kò sì fọmọ wọn ṣeré, wọ́n sì ń kọ́ wọn ní ẹ̀kọ́ tó yẹ pẹ̀lú ìfarabalẹ̀. Iṣẹ́ akadá gba ìfarabalẹ̀, ìfọkànbalẹ̀, ọgbọ́n inú, làákàyè, ètò àti ìpinnu fún ohunkóhun. Gbogbo àwọn kan wọ̀nyí ni erin ní. Bí akadá kan bá ya erin, ìrònú rẹ̀ yóò jinlẹ̀, làákàyè rẹ̀ yóò jiná, ìrònú rẹ̀ yóò sì ṣọ̀wọ́n torí kò ní wọ́pọ̀. Àkàndá ọlọ́lẹ̀ ẹ̀dá tí farabalẹ̀ kẹ́kọ̀ọ́ ni yóò jẹ́. Láti ìgbà tí a ti lóyún erin, láti mọ ohun tó ń bọ̀. Nígbà tá a bí, ilẹ̀ ibẹ̀ mọ̀ pé nǹkan lulẹ̀. Ẹni pàdé rẹ̀ á tún wò nínú ìrì ọlá ńlá àti títóbi rẹ̀. Kò ṣeé kù gìrì pa. Àjànàkú ń lọ lóko, àgbẹ̀ ń tàka, bàbá ta ló fọkọ́ perin rí. Eyín erin gan ohun ọlá ni lọ́tọ̀. Gbogbo ara erin kún fún ọlá àti àṣẹ. Ọpọlọ erin kún fún ìmọ̀, ọgbọ́n àti òye. Aṣíwájú gidi ni. Abìwà pẹ̀lẹ́ àti ọlọ́pọlọ pípé ni erin. Ẹ ṣeun.
Instead of language learning, I'm going to choose media studies. And I think media studies will transform into a chameleon. Here's why. Media studies has the ability to adapt and blend. It constantly adapts to new technologies, platforms, and cultural shifts. Like a chameleon, changing its color to blend with its environmental surroundings. Media studies must continuously adjust its focus and ways of finding out to analyze the ever-evolving media landscape. The field also has the power of observation and analysis. Chameleons are known for their keen eyesight and ability to observe the environment meticulously. Similarly, media studies involves close observation and critical analysis of media content, production, reception, and effects. Researchers in this field carefully scrutinize various forms of media to understand their underlying messages and social impact. There is also the question of communication and display. While not directly focusing about broadcasting communication, a chameleon's color changes are a form of communication, meaning for camouflage, territorial displays, mating, and so on. So media studies at its core is about understanding how humans communicate
through various media forms and how these forms display information, ideas, and values. Therefore, in conclusion, the chameleon with its traits of adaptability, observation, multi-perspectival viewing, and subtle forms of communication makes for a fitting animal representation of media studies. I don't know what others think, but this is the way I have always thought about media studies. And I think it concerns itself with what others are doing and makes it its own.
Molweni, igama lam ndinguBongiwe Dlutu. Ke mna ke ndihamba indlela ezimbini ezingqamanayo nezikwancedanayo. Okokuqala ndingumhlohli wesiXhosa kwiziko leelwimi eStellenbosch University, apho ndifundisa khona isiXhosa kwabo basiqalayo, kuquka nakubafundi bamanye amazwe abaqala ngqa ukuva isiXhosa nokubona abantu abasebenzisa isiXhosa. Kwangaxesha linye ndingumfundi ndenza iPhD kwisebe leelwimi zaseAfrika kwiDyunivesithi yaseNtshona Koloni. Uphando lwam ke lugxile kwi-ICT kunye neelwimi zomthonyama, ngakumbi indlela esinokusebenzisa ngayo iteknoloji ukukhusela, ukugcina nokwazisa ngobulumko bembali, iintsomi neendlela yokuphila yama-Afrika kwiinkqubo zemfundo kwixesha esiphila kulo ngoku. Ndiyakholwa ukuba iteknoloji ayimelanga ukuba ngumqobo, koko kufanele ukuba yibhlorho okanye isolotya elidibanisa imvelaphi yethu nekamva lethu. Ngomsebenzi wam ndifuna ukuqinisekisa ukuba isiXhosa nezinye iilwimi zomthonyama azishiyeki ngasemva, koko ziyaqaqamba kwihlabathi lanamhlanje. Kuzo zonke izinto endizenzayo ndithwala inkcubeko yam ngentlonipho, andiyijiki, andiyinciphisi, ndiyayikhusela, ndiyafundisa ngayo, ndiyiphile ngentliziyo epheleleyo. Ngoko ke ukuba umsebenzi wam ungaguquka ube sisilwanyana, ndingathi yingonyama. Okokuqala, ingonyama ayothuki, ayibuyeli mva. Xa ifuna into ihlala igxilile, iyazazi ukuba ifuna ntoni. Inomonde, inamandla. Iyafana ke nam xa ndisemsebenzini, xa sele ndihlohla isintu sam ndiyafana nengonyama, ndiyayazi yona nto ndiyifunayo. Kwinkcubeko yakwaXhosa ke ingonyama ayisosilwanyana nje sasendle. Sisilwanyana esixabiseke kakhulu kangangokuba isikhumba sayo sinxitywa ziikumkani neekumkanikazi njengophawu lobukhosi, isidima nobunganga. Yingako ke ndikhetha ingonyama le, ngoba kaloku xa sisebenzisa iteknoloji kukhuselwa amazwi neengcinga zabantu abakudala ababengalusebenzisi ulwimi olubhalwayo, babethetha kuphela. Loo nto leyo yinto enkulu. Ngoko ke ndizonyulela ingonyama. Hayi ngoba xa ikhala igquma kakhulu, mna andikwazi ukugquma. Kodwa ngenxa yokuba yona iyazazi ukuba ifuna ntoni, iyagxila kwaye iqonda ngqo kule nto iyifunayo. Amandla wayo ke ndiyawathanda, ngoko njengengonyama ndiyazazi ukuba ndingubani, ndiyayazi into endiyifunayo, ndiyayazi into endiyenzayo uba ndiyenzela ntoni, kwaye andijiki xa ndisenza into, ngakumbi into entle. Enkosi.
Swahili literature as an octopus? Ethnomusicology as an elephant? Come on, these are some clever answers to a bizarre question that only people from those fields could come up with. What do you think of all these answers we received this month? If your own field or occupation transformed into an animal, what animal do you think it would be? Thanks so much for tuning into this episode of Afrikanists Assemble. We're going to take the next month off, but we will see you again in October with another question inviting everyone to frolic in the realm of African languages and literatures.